I will. I'll invite you in 1 second. I've got the most amazing guest today, Will Polston. Will is a man of mindset, is an excellent speaker, is a TEDx speaker and the founder of the Elite Network, which is the fastest network, personal development network in the UK. Now, I've spoken at the Elite Network many times and I've got a lot more to do this year. And it's such a great networking event, really amazing. And it's the fastest growing networking event in the UK. Welcome, Will.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm really well. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good indeed.
Thank you for being my guest today. And I'll jump into my first question. Can you tell me a little bit about your story and what led to you being a speaker, a mindset expert, and the founder of the Elite Network and becoming such a great leader?
Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge you and just say a huge thank you. Thank you for A, inviting me on today, and then B, obviously the way that we've managed to get into contact with each other, which is as a result of you coming and speaking at the Elite Network. And big thanks to Beiju Solanki for the introduction. So, great to obviously a lot of people that come in. So, hi everyone. Comments are coming on, but I'm going to crack on and answer your question, and then we'll go from there. So, in answer to the question, how did I come about becoming a speaker? What was my story, and what was the other thing? There was three things that you mentioned there.
Just your story and what brought you into speaking, being a leader.
Sure. Okay, cool. So it's interesting because although I speak and I speak at events, I don't necessarily regard myself as a speaker sort of in every day. But I guess I do quite a lot of speaking events. And yeah, so to sort of take everybody back and sort of give a little bit more of the picture of how everything come about. I'll tell you what, let me get, so I can elaborate on this. So give me a time frame to tell the story, and I'll tell the story within that time frame. I can tell the long version, the short version, the medium version, or the really quick version. So
let's do the medium version. So the process up to speaking, where you were up to speaking and becoming the leader.
Sure. So, but give me a time frame. How long have I got to share that up to that point? From here till that point, what do you give me a time frame quickly?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. So, yeah. Long story short, then. So I got an incredible family. I don't have sort of a Cinderella story, so to speak. I've got two amazing parents that are still together today. I've got a brother. I've got two sisters. And yeah, we had sort of quite a good upbringing. I mean, my dad worked hard, and sort of fairly good money. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't driving around in Ferraris or anything like that, but nice family home, went on holiday every year, things along those lines. But one of the things that really stood out for me growing up was how much my dad hated his job. He absolutely hated his job. He worked up in the city in IT. He used to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, get home at 7 o'clock at night. When he'd come home, he'd bring the stress, the frustration, the overwhelm and everything back into the house sometimes, which, although it was just his behaviour as a result of his environment, it just wasn't the nicest things. It was something that I remember. I remember it really clearly. But then also at the same time, I've got two uncles. But on that note, when he used to come in and he'd moan about the stress and the frustration, all the rest of it, he would say, like, oh, if only we can win the lottery. Like, when we win the lottery, it will all be okay. And then I won't have to work. I won't have to do these things. So there was this big awareness that I was made about money and how we never had enough money to be able to be doing certain things and operating in certain ways. So that was something that I really remember. It was really quite vivid. But I've also got two uncles. And I've got my Uncle Mark and my Uncle Steve, who are very, very wealthy financially. And I remember Dad saying that, like, they just got lucky. That was sort of something, again, that really stood out for me growing up, which gave me the drive to want to go off and earn as much money as I could. So I created this belief that money equaled happiness, went off on the tangent to earn as much money as I possibly could. I was the Dell boy at school, buying and selling and doing whatever it is that I could. I was, very, very, very driven. And I decided at a very young age I wanted to own my own businesses, and I eventually got into retail. I worked in clothes shops, and I decided I wanted to get involved in investment sales. I got into investment sales, and I become very good, very young, and did pretty well. One of the things as I got into investment sales that enabled me to really do well was I stumbled across personal development. I read a book called The Secret, which some of you might be aware of. I did worked all the dots backwards, and I was like, every time I've applied this, I've achieved what it is that I want to achieve. And if I look forward, and I use these same things, I'm going to earn even more money. And I did. So the more I did it, the more money I earned. And I was like, this is fantastic, all this stuff. And then one day I went to an event with a guy called Tony Robbins that some of you might have heard of. And I was at an event called UPW, Unleash the Power Within, 5 years ago now. And I had what I call my lightning moment. It literally just hit me. And I just burst out crying my eyes out. And it was because I realized in that moment that my belief that money equals happiness was complete bullshit, and that it had never been really about the money. It was all about my dad, and how my dad could have achieved certain things that might have had a bigger impact on us as a family, and maybe wouldn't have impacted other members of my family and me, and the way that I thought about certain things. And basically, I vowed that I didn't want anyone else to have to go through the pain that I went through growing up, and other members of my family went through, sort of emotionally growing up, as a result of people not achieving what it is that they've got the potential within them to be able to do. Now, I'm really pleased to say that since then, my dad's gone off. He's done lots of things. He started a business, and he's sort of living a lifestyle now that it really suits him, and that's great. And he's continuing on his journey, so that's a good thing. But in that particular moment, I was like, I need to do something. I need to do something. I need to be doing what that guy out there is doing. He's done this for me. I want other people to be doing this. So I just essentially followed what he was doing and said, right, I want to become the world's best life coach. And that was what I set my stall out to do. And yeah, I remember leaving UPW and I was pumped. And if you've been to UPW, you know, you're like pumped. You've been like around, I was like 10,000 people for 3 days. You've been jumping up and down. You're full of energy. You're like, you're there. You are so full of energy to be able to just go and take on. So I remember I went home and I went online and I registered a company. And next I went to the bank and I set up a bank account, and I did nothing. because fear then sat in. I was like, well, I will be able to do this, but when X has happened, right? And so I was like, when X has happened. So anyway, I did end up leaving the city, and I set up a sales and marketing business in renewable energy. That grew really quickly. Within 4 months, we had 85 staff. It was growing. Then all of a sudden, government changed legislation. We had to cull that business overnight, and it was a bit of a challenging time. We then sort of pivoted and created a much smaller team doing something similar. That wasn't really working. I went on holiday with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and it was quite funny because I couldn't go on holiday because I couldn't drink on holiday because I got an abscess in my tooth, and I was on antibiotics you can't drink on. And I was reading a book, again, another Rhonda Byrne book, this time called The Hero. You might have heard of it. And it talked about a guy called Mastin Kipp. And I don't know if you're familiar with Mastin, but he's got a website called thedailyLove.com. And he talked about how his journey got going. And the way his journey got going is he used to just post a motivational quote on Twitter every day. And he had 2,000 followers. And one day he got retweeted by Kim Kardashian. He went from 2,000 followers to 20,000 followers in like 10 minutes. It just absolutely rocketed. And I just burst out crying again, right? So I'm sitting there, because my girlfriend's hungover, she's in the room. I'm sitting there in the poolside, crying my eyes out. People must think I'm such a weird guy. Luckily, I had my sunglasses on. And I said, like, this is it. Like, I've been holding myself back for 2 years. I don't have to have achieved anything. I don't need to have been something, have done something to start. I can just start. If I'm just posting a motivational quote on Facebook, it might have an impact on someone's day. And that for me was really what it was about. So I went home, I posted one quote a day for a week. In week 2, I started posting 2 a day. In week 3, I set up a website. Within 3 months, I had a 10,000 strong social media following. In month 4, I decided I was going to run events. So for me, I wanted to coach one-to-many because my goal was only to empower as many people as I possibly could. And my goal now is 1 billion. And maybe we'll touch more on that later. And so I run these events. And I thought, right, I'll get 50 people in a room for free once a week. I'll convert them to come to a one-day event, and then I'll be able to grow from there. So my first event, I got 36 people in a room. And I was like, that's not a bad start. I was thinking 50 people in a room once a week, how hard can it be? Well, yeah, it was harder than I thought, a lot harder than I thought. And if you're someone that's ever run an event before, you'll know it's hard to get people in a room.
Selling tickets.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and even then, it was a free event. It was a free event. It was still really hard to get bums on seats. So the second event had 13 people, 13 people, 6 people. So it was 36, 16, 12, 13 is what it did. And I was like, this isn't working. But at least at that point, I'd got to the point where I was sharing my message and I was speaking. So in answer to your question, that got me to that stage where that happened. But the key here was that when that didn't work and I was speaking to people, and although people were coming to the event, they wasn't converting. So commercially, it wasn't making sense. At that point, I had to think differently. And the way that I thought differently was other people must have this same problem. Other speakers, trainers, coaches that want to make a difference to people, they must be having this same problem. I knew that I could get at least 50 people at least once a month in a room. And my theory was that no one reads just one book. No one just reads one author. You know, they don't just have one author on their bookshelf. So why should people just have one coach? Why shouldn't they listen from different coaches? And that was where the idea of the Elite Network was born. And then obviously 2 and a bit years later, here we are. So cool. There's the story up to getting to that point of being a speaker, Mark.
Listening to that, that's amazing. And it really resonated with me, as in sometimes things in your childhood can really drive you later down in life. So having those hardships earlier on is what gives you those pushes to really excel later on in life.
100%. I had the pleasure of seeing Dr. John DeMartini on Wednesday night, who for me is one of my favorite authors. He's an incredible guy. One of his books is my top 3 books, but he's also like one of my heroes. So it's an absolute pleasure and honor to be able to meet him. And he talks about polarity. So everything in life is a polarity, right? So there's no night without day. There's no hot without cold. There's no light without dark. There's no bicep without tricep. Like everything in life, there's a polarity. And what we don't realize is that from our biggest struggles come our biggest strengths. If you were to plot your life and you look and you did it as like a chart, and you on the axis here, like the x-axis, you've got your sort of your pain and pleasure levels, and then if you look across here in time, if you plot where you had your lowest moments and then you plot your highest moments across that chart, your lowest moments will be directly correlated to your highest moments. So in the moment, yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's hard, and there's lots of ways that you can leverage your mind in order to get you thinking differently. But the fact is, life happens for you, not to you. And the sooner you can become aware of that, the better. For me, and the experience that I've had with working with thousands of different people now in various different ways, one thing's really evident is that people's purpose, their true purpose or their calling or their highest value, whatever it is that you want to nail it down to, comes from some form of pain. So the deepest pain that you've experienced at some point in your life, which normally happens prior to being 18 years old, is the thing that gives you the drive to move where you want to go. Because pain is what gets you going. Like the pain is what gets you going. Pleasure is what keeps you going. So if you can hone into that and you can reframe that pain, it puts you in a fantastic position to put you on an incredible trajectory to achieve some amazing things and feel incredibly fulfilled along the way.
So, like, I can see how working on your mindset, reading the book The Secret, which I myself read, which had a big impact on my life too. I know it's impacted quite a lot of people. Why is mindset so important? I've had good and I've had bad mindset, so I know how important it is to have a good mindset. And I know when I'm in a good mindset, I'm unstoppable. But also, if I slip into a bad mindset, I don't get results. So why is mindset so important, Will?
Sure. So let's just start with like what is mindset. So essentially, mindset is just an established set of behaviors and attitudes, right? And the beauty of your mindset is you have the choice. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand is you have the choice. You have the ability to control your mindset. And for me, it's the catalyst that moves everything else. And the way that we do that is with the language that we use. So language is incredibly powerful. Words create meaning, meaning creates emotion, and emotion controls the quality of your life. So the more you can understand the language you're using to communicate with yourself, because most people think about communication, they think about communicating with others. They think about, well, how do you communicate? Do I do it by phone? Do I do it by text? Do I do it by email? How do I communicate? What language do I communicate in? Do I speak in English, French, Chinese, Japanese, whatever? But it's the words that we're using which have the impact on us as individuals that really opens up to what we're doing. Words create worlds. So the quicker you can have, not even the quicker, the more conscious you can be around the language that you're using, the more the more control you'll have over your life and what it is you want to get. And for me, it's all about congruence. So a big philosophy of mine, so my whole coaching philosophy is based around clarity, action, accountability, and it's all to do with living congruently. And when I mean congruent, I mean when your actions are aligned to your intentions. Whenever our actions aren't aligned to our intentions, we're off. Like we're off. We're off. That is what I call the rift. The rift happens, and when we have the rift, that's where emotion takes place, right? And typically negative emotion, stress, overwhelm, frustration, whatever, depression, that all these things happen because of this rift where your actions and your intentions aren't aligned. And essentially all they are symptoms. Any form of emotion you're getting is a symptom of a cause. And where so many people go wrong in life is what they try and do is they treat the symptom, they don't treat the cause. So I personally, you probably saw last week, decided that for a year minimum, I'm going to not drink for a year. And that's because when I drink alcohol, I don't really drink that much. But when I do drink, I drink to absolute excess.
I'm the same.
And the reason for that isn't because I've got a problem with drinking. I don't have a problem with drink. Drink is drink. Drink is the thing. But it's the thing that I've not dealt with, that I'm aware of consciously and have been for some time, that drink impacts me in the way that it does to that extent. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to mask that pain. And that's essentially why I've chosen to do exactly that. So, yeah. Hopefully that answers the question.
What I like about you, Will, as well, you don't fluff it on social media. You're very honest and share the good as well as the bad. You're a mindset expert, but you don't. You share the good along with the bad. Because I seen that post and I thought, fair play that he's sharing issues that he's going through and how he's dealing with them. It's amazing that you are conscious of it, because that's the way to move forwards. If you're conscious of something, you can make changes of it. So some great tips there, Will. Can I ask you about the Elite Network? You're the creator and the founder of the Elite Network. I've spoken there many times. I've got lots more to do this year. I love the atmosphere of them. They're all set out similar, so it feels like home when you go in there. And it's just such, the quality of speakers, what you take on, are great as well too, Will. Can you tell the audience what they gain from coming to the Elite Network? What's it all about?
Yeah, sure. So again, like a lot of the stuff that I do is done slightly selfishly, but with intent, right? So my ultimate goal, like I've already mentioned, is to empower as many people as I can to unlock their full potential and make it happen, to benefit their lives, their families' lives, their friends' lives, their community, society, humanity, to have a constant ripple effect for good. I don't believe in just win-win situations. It's about getting win-win, win-win, win-win-win situations. How can everyone benefit on a constant and continue that ripple effect? And for me, one of the things that I've experienced is that as I've been going through this personal development journey, is I'm becoming more conscious to who I am and my drivers and what it is that I do, and I'm evolving. Like, we all are growing. Like, if you don't grow, you die. So we have the ability to constantly change our environment and where we're at and what we're doing. I'm obsessed I'm obsessed with growing myself mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. It's something that's really, really important to me. And one of the things that I was realizing was that some of my friends that are amazing friends, and they're still amazing friends, they weren't necessarily on my wavelength when it comes to wanting to grow and develop and have this drive or this entrepreneurial spirit. Because it's not all just about entrepreneurialism, but it is about having a desire to grow and a desire to contribute to our spiritual needs, to grow and to contribute. So when I did that, so the Elite Network was essentially about getting positive, driven, like-minded people together regularly. There's so many great events that take place, and real big events in the Excel and places like that take place every single year, which are great, like the biannual or annual events. Then there's lots of local networking events where the sole focus is about promoting your business and maybe creating a relationship, but there wasn't local personal development networking events. So where you could go to an event, sure, you're going to meet people, but more importantly than that, you're going to experience new insights, you're going to be inspired, you're going to be motivated, you're going to be felt to feel more positive. Sometimes you might even feel more negative temporarily because you become aware of something, and then you can take action from it. And that was my desire, to bring those things to people locally. So that was what we did. We've currently now got 7 events around the UK: Newcastle, Sheffield, Leeds, Manchester, Guildford, Maidstone, and Chelmsford, and we're due to be opening up some more soon. And yeah, depending on location you're going to, you're talking anywhere between sort of 30 and 60 people in a room, where you benefit from 2 speakers that we personally select, and they have to apply for a process. So the caliber is very good, where you're going to get exactly that: positivity, inspiration, motivation. You're going to be learning new things about personal development. And it's all personal development focused. It's not business focused. It's not about SEO marketing or how to deal with GDPR, which has been quite a hot topic lately, right? And it's not about selling investments like property or FX or anything like that. It's purely about how you can grow as an individual.
I think that's what makes the events so unique, because they're always at classy locations, and it is purely just about uplifting, motivation, personal development, and you just get such quality speakers. So they're absolutely awesome events. I recommend people to get along to one. And what advice have you got to any new aspiring speakers or some established speakers that want to move forwards in their business?
Sure. So if it's okay, what we can do, so people who obviously should be speaking about the link now, we'll post the link so that if you want to find out a little bit more about it, is that cool to do that, Mark? Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So we'll do that afterwards. What's my advice to speakers? Like I say, I think for me, like I'm not like a trained speaker per se. I mean, I have been privileged to get invited to do a TED talk, or TEDx talk, which I did last year. I've spoken internationally. I do these things, and I think that the big thing for me is, my advice, like really tune in with what it is that you really want to do. So for me, I want to empower 1 billion people to unlock their full potential and make it happen. So there's 2 things at play here. One is the reason why you're doing it. And then the second thing is, it's worth remembering the message is determined by the receiver. The message is determined by the receiver. So it doesn't matter how good a speaker you think you are, and it doesn't matter how much heart and passion that you've got. The fact is, the message is determined by the receiver. So there has to be an element of skill that you gain, which you can self-learn. There's like resources, YouTube, all the rest of it, or you can go on great courses to be able to learn from certain people. There's a lot of great speaker coaches out there to be able to deliver the message so that it lands. Yeah, because people don't remember what you say. Just because you've said something, you've got up and spoken and said something, doesn't mean you're a speaker. People don't remember what you said. People remember how you make them feel. And that, for me, there is an art to. So,
yeah, it's all about how.
Yeah, so two things is get really clear on what your message is, because like, I see so many great people that have got so much heart, so much passion, but their delivery, their execution just doesn't land. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying I'm the best out there by a long shot. I'm really, really not. But it's something that I work on continually to get myself in a position whereby hopefully the message that I have lands and has the impact that I desire it to, in order to have the impact that I want in terms of my ultimate goal.
It's all about how you can help the audience as well. Like, people do want to know a little bit of your story, but they're more interested in how you can help them. So that's a really good point, Will. Was you going to
Yeah, I
say
mean,
something?
yeah, I was going to say. I mean, I would. So personally, I would disagree. I don't think people do want to know your story a lot of the time. I
Yeah,
think the difference being is that a lot of people, from an egotistical point of view, want to share their story, which cool. They want to get it off their chest. They want to share it. For me, the reason I share my story is because I'm trying to connect with people, and we've grown up learning stories. That's how we grew up. We were told like years ago with like old wives' tales. Think about Disney and things like that. There's stories that have an underlying message. I actually wrote a blog on my philosophy of what I think Disney was all really about, which I got posted on Huffington Post. And for me, the summary of the blog was that maybe it wasn't about being a kids thing. It was about actually empowering people if they believe in, or empowering kids to believe if they really believe in themselves, anything is possible. And they were trying to create that message. If you look at every single Disney film that's ever come out, there was a person or a cartoon or an animal or whatever it was that was in a position that wanted something that didn't have the best start, went through struggle, and eventually come out on top and lived happily ever after, right? As people would say. And I think that's what they're inspiring people to do. I've gone slightly off topic here. What was I talking about? There's me talking about having an
telling a
impact.
story
Yeah,
and
telling a story. So yeah, that's the thing, sharing the story. But the reason why I think a lot of people where people can get stories is that a story is quite often can be used as a metaphor, and a metaphor is a really powerful way of getting a message across to someone subtly into their unconscious mind, and that is where the real power of storytelling comes in.
that's an absolutely great point, Will. So can you tell us what's new for Will? Are you still there, Will? See if I can re-invite you back in. I'm just trying to invite Will back into the broadcast. I'll give him 1 second. I'm going to invite you back in now, Will. I've already invited you. I can see you watching. What I'm going to do, I'm going to come off the broadcast and I'm going to come off the broadcast and come back on, Will.